Sona, really? Hello and welcome. My name is Sid. I have 2600 Sona points and I have a 37% win rate in Gold 3. So I figured who better to give you a Sona guide than myself. So welcome to Sona, Guitar Hero. Let's start off with her passive, Guitar Hero. Whenever Sona uses one of her abilities, well, she gains a stack of accelerando, meaning meatball in Italian. Each meatball reduces the cooldown of her basic abilities, with 0.5 ability haste. She can get 120 meatballs before she is full, after which, every time she uses an ability, it reduces the cooldown of her ultimate by 1.5 seconds instead. Using an ability activates another part of her passive, noise. Each of her basic abilities has an additional effect when you press a button. For blue, you give nearby goons bonus damage on the next basic attack. For green, it's just a shield, and for purple it's bonus move speed. But that's not all. After every third basic ability, Sona's basic attacks get empowered, unleashing an absolute nuke on the target on top of having an additional effect based on what ability was used third. For blue, it's another nuke on top of the nuke. For green, it's a shrink ray where you shrink the target, making them feel insecure about their height and weak. As for purple, you do the opposite of speed and make them slow. Now that we have dealt with the dictionary where the main focus was Sona passive, we move on to her abilities. Starting off with her Q. Blue. Sona sends out 2 missiles to the nearest 2 enemies, prioritizing champions. Each deal a solid amount of magic damage, and when she hits a target, she can now hunt them as the area around them will be revealed for 1 second. For each champion hit, she gets a meatball. 7 out of 10 because I don't like being stalked by a floating woman. Next up is her W. Green. Sona heals the most wounded friend nearby. Yeah, I mean that's just a simple click and heal friend. 9 out of 10 for simplicity, so my room temperature IQ can understand it. Moving on to her E. Purple. Sona activates her secret jet engines and increases movement speed. Any allies that get in her circle get a slipstream, allowing them to move faster as well. 9 out of 10. I always knew Sona was a plane. Now to her ultimate. Yellow. Sona's absolutely lost it and smashes her head on the keyboard, unleashing a yellow squared wave dealing a bunch of damage and stunning enemies hit for 1.5 seconds. But here's the fun part. Everyone that gets stunned by this is forced to dance for the duration of the stuns, making you pretend that you're having a good time. I often try to get hit by this ability so I can groove during the game. 9 out of 10. Now let's do runes. Seeing as my knowledge of this champion is bar none, I'm just gonna make assumptions, so bear with me. We want to go to the sorcery page and select Summonary, because what's more fun than to throw a magical cat at someone's head. Deals a bunch of damage and has a low cooldown, making this perfect for Sona as you also have low cooldowns. You can throw it at a friend, give them a shield as well. Next up, we have Mana Flow Band, because if you like it, you should have put a ring on it. Thank you, Beyonce. Mana Flow Band gives you a nice way to not go as fast after spamming the living shit out of your abilities. As for the third row, we take Transcendence, simply because it's like the Giga Brain move means, so it must be good. It does give you a nice amount of ability ace as well. As for the last one, it's going to be Gathering Storm. Water walking is useless because you don't walk, and Scorch is kind of lame. For the second part of the runes, we want to go for Resolve, because Sona is squishier than a cat cheeseburger. Don't ask me how I know this. So we take Conditioning, because it gives you the most armor and magic resist, and we take Revitalize because of the increased healing and shield power. As for the minors,
ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
no, not those. I mean minor runes. We take Adaptive Force, and Armor, because you'll find AD carries in the bot lane, and more often than not, they deal physical damage. We move on to items. Now, since you're normally a support when playing Sona, I will cover the support items for her. But I'll put a list of mid lane Sona items as well, since I am a mid laner at heart. And since most of you don't know, I like to try every champion mid lane at least once. The support role is always very poor, because most of the times ADCs get upset when you take their farm. So to counter this obstacle, we need to start with a Spell Thief's Edge. Now you can hit enemies instead of minions to get gold. We're still going to be poor, but at least you can afford your items now since they're quite cheap. The biggest plus of this item is that it upgrades itself without giving you any extra cost. When it upgrades, you can place wards down, but I advise against it since they can kill wards for more money, and giving them gold is the last thing you want to do as a support. Side note though, when the support item of the enemy support upgrades, buy a sweeper, because they will most likely put down wards, and now you can go around the bushes and collect more money from those wards. As for our first item, you want to get Lucidity Boots. With these you can run away faster and collect more meatballs because of the lower CDR. It is cheap and very good to get early. You should try to get a Tear of the Goddess soon after this, or you won't be able to upgrade to the Archangel Staff before the game ends as well. Now for our mythic, we want to buy Moonstone Renewer. This item is super good since it heals allies when you press an ability and it has a low cooldown. And since we know that Sona also has low cooldowns, it synergizes perfectly and it's cheap. For our next item we buy Chemtech Purifier. It's the anti-heal item, it's cheap, and it gives amazing stat. Not much else to say, buy it. At this point in time, your tier might be maxed out. That's when you want to buy an Archangel Staff. It will upgrade automatically into Seraph's Embrace and give you a huge power spike. You can spam abilities all the time now, and it will be very hard to run out of mana. And on top of that, it gives you more survivability. And if you somehow manage to get a last item in, you want to either get Ardent Censer or Staff of the Flowing Waters, depending on your ADC/team. If your team loves to auto attack or is AD heavy, get an Ardent Censer. But if your team is mainly AP, get a Staff of Flowing Waters. Something I forgot to mention in my other guides is the leveling order. Here we go. Q, W, E, W, W, R, W, Q, W, Q, R, Q, Q, E, E, R, E, E. I hope you follow that. And now we're moving on to gameplay. Starting with the early game. Sona's early game is absolute dumpster fire. You will go after pressing 3 abilities, you barely heal, and the movement speed from your E is depressing. Your Q deals a bit of damage though. But on top of being all the time, you will die when someone looks at you funny. So Sona has a base HP of 550. We're not done yet. On top of being squishier than jelly, Sona is slow. With a base movement speed of 325, you will most likely not escape any attempt at your life, meaning you have to play very safe and away from pretty much anything. As for the mid game, she gets a bit better, since she has a few items to deal with the insane mana issues and wheelchair speed. You have boots at this point, and your E gives more movement speed. Most likely we'll have a tier stacking up and some other items to give you mana, but you're still not great at this stage of the game because you can still run out of mana very fast, and you're still very squishy. Now for the late game. The late game is where Sona shines. You can spam her abilities like crazy, giving you Carpal Tunnel. You have a bunch of items now that increases your HP and mana. You've maxed out most of your spells, and you heal for a shit ton at this stage because of Moonstone Renewer and a maxed out W. You also do quite a bit of damage with your passive and maxed out Q at this point in the game, and seeing as most people will have all their items at this stage of the game, you can finally place down some wards since no one needs money anymore. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something useful. Hey, you click that subscribe button if you enjoyed the content and want to see more. While you're at it, let me know in the comments what champ you would like to see next. Thank you!